This is Chris Barron for the 23rd of September 2020. How are you guys? How are you feeling? How are you doing this Wednesday? Let's have some fun. Today we're going to talk about something extremely controversial, something that you might not agree with, and that's totally fine. I strongly believe that most designers should not learn how to code. I think most designers should not learn how to code for a number of reasons, and I'll do my best to explain it. I think coding may be something that's really interesting and exciting, but for most people, I don't believe that's something they should go through. I'm really talking about people that are at the beginner slash intermediate level as a designer. And that's because most people that are actually advanced, that are great designers, I don't actually think they have any type of inclination whatsoever to learn how to code. I believe that after you reach a certain point as a skilled designer, you no longer have any type of inclination to switch gears, to become whatever, to become a carpenter, to become whatever, a poet, whatever, a videographer, or whatever else, right? Most often than not, what tends to happen is you get better and better at it, and you have this renewed joy and renewed energy trying to get better and better at it, right? You rarely do something awesome, you rarely create something, like a beautiful website, and then you say, man, yeah, but I would love to whatever, to lay some tile. I would love to make some wood carvings. I would love to whatever, to paint an actual painting, right? You rarely do that, right? You actually create that beautiful project, no matter what it is, website, app, whatever it is, Facebook banner, whatever it is, and then you're excited to do more, right? You want to do more. And the better you get at it, the more exciting it is. It's not something that actually goes down with time. You're actually not getting bored. On the contrary, I strongly believe that as you get better at things, you become more excited and you look forward to the next project, right? So it really doesn't happen at a high level, I believe, to actually just want to switch gears. Another thing that really doesn't happen, for example, let's just take my case because I want to speak from my experience. You really don't, you never achieve a place where you think, okay, I'm a great designer, that's it. I'm now not gonna learn. I'm gonna stop learning. I'm gonna stop researching. I'm gonna stop looking for inspiration because I know enough. It is what it is. It is what it is. I've reached a level where I can design nines on a constant basis. That's it. There's nothing else for me to explore. There's no higher place for me to be. I'm comfortable at being a nine. It is what it is. That doesn't happen. I strongly believe, at least in my case, that doesn't happen. You're constantly trying to get better. And the better you are, the less you think you know. It's a funny thing because when you ask beginners about their skill level, they often might say something like, hey, I'm a 7 out of 10. I'm an 8 out of 10, right? Even though, they've dabbled with the program for whatever, a month, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, whatever. But when you ask seriously skilled people, and I've seen this a lot on YouTube, I've seen countless interviews with fantastic high-level designers. Hey, Chris, you've been doing this for whatever, 10 years. How skilled do you think you are? 1 out of 10. And I'm going to say 8, right? And I find that's really interesting that someone that's very skilled says he's at a 7 or an 8, maybe 8.5, maybe a 9, but beginners or intermediates say somewhat the same thing. I find that fascinating, and that's a nice segue into what I think is happening with my community, basically with my students, where they feel they must learn how to code. And before I get into any of that, I'd like to answer to get an answer from you guys regarding why do you want to learn how to code? Why do you think that's something that you want to do? Is it something that's that's a desire? Is it something that's burning inside you, or is it what is it exactly what Cucumber said? Yeah, right here. He basically says the following thing. He basically says, hey, I'm a designer, I'm a whatever, beginner, intermediate, it doesn't matter. I'm into web design, and clients just pass me over. Clients don't want a designer who just works in Photoshop or Adobe XD. Chris, the market is telling me that my skills aren't needed. So I feel like I'm forced to learn how to code. And see, that's the number one reason as to why you shouldn't learn to code. I believe that's the number one reason why you shouldn't learn to code, because you're forced to, right? Because you feel that you can't get projects unless you know how to code. That's the wrong way of going about it. That's that's an awful reason to learn how to code. You should learn to code if it excites you, if it's something that you're passionate about, if you feel like it's something that really makes your your skin tingle, if it's something that makes you want to get up in the morning and learn another tutorial or explore some other various cases and whatnot. So if you're excited about learning how to code, sure, by all means, if you think you can do that, for the rest of your life, because that's how I like to put the things into perspective. If you want to do that for the rest of your life, if it's something that excites you, if you have a passion for it, for problem solving, for building something from scratch based on your code, again, that's a beautiful reason. You should learn how to code. That's fantastic. But working in Photoshop and deciding to become a painter because there's more money in it, that's not a good reason. Working in Photoshop or Adobe XD as a web designer and deciding that you have to learn how to code because otherwise you won't get jobs is a terrible reason. Now, let me explain something, which again, you may not agree with. So I've just come back from the gym, and obviously people go to the gym for various reasons, and loads of men assume that, women like fit men that are in shape, men that are muscular, that are big, that whatever, right? I think we can all agree that's a reasonable assumption, right? That women prefer a strong, tall, muscular man, right? But what happens if you go down that route? You go to the gym, you kick your ass, you work every day, you're exhausted, you do all that, but your personality is awful. What happens then? What happens if you have bad hygiene? What happens if your breath stinks? Sure, we start from the place where you assume that you're gonna get, a nice mate, a nice partner, a nice woman or girl, whatever, if you become muscular, if you go to the gym often, right? So you start with that, let's just learn how to code, because if I learn how to code, I'm gonna get more clients. But then you realize down the line that that's not the whole thing. That's not the entire thing. Sure, it may help, right? It is an advantage to be a tall, muscular man, right? When you try and get a woman. But on the other hand, let me tell you this. What happens if you're short? What happens if you're not muscular? Are you doomed? Are you gonna have a life in isolation? Are you gonna be alone for the rest of your life? And obviously that's not the case, right? Because we see men that have various beautiful women, wives and girlfriends and whatnot, that aren't strong and muscular and tall and whatever, alpha males and whatever. So then again, let me say that again. While it may be an advantage to be tall and muscular and strong and dominating and whatever, that doesn't mean it's the only way to go about it. Furthermore, you may be an alpha male, let's just call it that for the sake of time. You may be an alpha male, but your breath may stink. Your personality may be horrible, right? You may have the personality of a rock. So even though you may be tall and muscular and dominating, alpha, you may still not get a suitable mate, a suitable girlfriend, or whatever you want to, wife or whatever, just because of other things, right? Going back to the design world, you think, okay, if I learn how to code, I'm gonna get more clients. Maybe, exactly like the case of those guys in the gym. Maybe you're gonna get more women or whatever you wanna call it. Maybe. It may be an advantage. But the problem is, it comes from a bad place. It comes from a place where you're scared. It comes from a place of you're not getting what you want to get. You're looking out there, and then you're just grabbing onto whatever. You're grabbing at straws for, you're trying to basically justify why you're failing as a designer to get jobs, you just have a perfect excuse right now. I'm not getting jobs because I don't know how to code. If I knew how to code, if I knew Spanish, if I knew German, if I knew Chinese, man, let's just learn Chinese because the market is huge. They surely have loads of web design projects, right? But obviously, if you don't know Chinese, you're basically wasting your time. Who wants a designer that codes that doesn't know Chinese, right? So as you can see, you can spin it 1,000 ways. You can spin it in loads of ways. Now, what I believe tends to happen is exactly like Cucumber said. You become a designer, you work in Photoshop, maybe Adobe XD, and then you see that clients are rejecting you. They're rejecting you not because you don't know how to code. That may be a part of it. They are rejecting you because you don't know how to sell yourself. They're rejecting you because your portfolio sucks and you don't have a portfolio. That's why they're rejecting you. You're not getting jobs not because there's too much competition on 99 Designs. It's because you're not focused enough. It's because, again, your design skills aren't where they need to be, right? Assuming you're from 1 to 100, you're at the 39. So being at 39 is basically being at 0, basically. Only the guys that are between 70 and 100, they get most projects. If you're at 39 and you stop and you begin all the way at 0, starting to code, then what? You're gonna be a designer that's at 39 and the coder that's at what? Let's say 20, let's say 50, right? Who wants a coder at 50 and 39 as a designer? Nobody. I mean, again, you may get some odd jobs from forums, from friends, from family members, whatever. You may get something, a few $100s. But as a career, as your progression, that's a horrible way to go about it. That's one of the worst ways that you can do. Because if you continue being a designer, if you slowly start to creep up from 39 to 45 to 50 to 55 to 60 to 70 and so on, you're going to be great. You're going to be in high demand. You can get a fantastic job. You can start earning serious money. Because again, the whole idea is, would you rather have to scrape every month for some odd projects where you code and you design and you're terrible at let's say you're not terrible, you're mediocre, and mediocre brings a lot of frustration because you're not going to be able to do loads of things that you imagine, but you don't have the skills to actually implement. That's basically what happens when you're mediocre at stuff. You envision something in your mind, and when you try and execute it, it's awful, and then you get really frustrated. So again, the problem is, if you become a designer that's a 39 and a coder that's at 40 or 50, whatever it may be, you're gonna get odd jobs, $200, $400, $600, and that's it. And you're never actually gonna make serious steps towards getting $4,000, $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 a month. Now, if you ask me, I would much rather spend some time earning nothing, 3 months just focusing, just getting prepared, just focusing and doing the best that I can do to actually increase my skills as a designer, and then start earning. If you think about it, it's the way Floyd Mayweather does it, right? He spends a year just not doing anything. Then he spends the rest of the time training, 3 months, 4 months, whatever that may be. He fights once a year, maybe twice a year, and that's it, right? He gets $100 million, $300 million, and that's it. On the other hand, there are fighters that fight twice a month, that fight 3 times a month, right? And that's a lot of wear and tear, and they get $10,000, $50,000, whatever it may be, right? And I strongly believe that in the design world, you don't have to scrape. You don't have to, again, just be frustrated all of the time and, trying to juggle 2 things at once. Because again, the day has only 24 hours. You can't be a great designer and be a great coder at the same time. Now, why am I telling you all this? Because I'm not a coder, so why the hell would you listen to me? Well, I've been dealing with coders for the past, I would say, at least 8 years. For the past 3 years, I've worked with a coder at least 4 days a week, right? That's including Sundays and Saturdays. So out of 7 days, I've been in contact all the time with coders. I've been in contact with various coders. I basically juggle between three at this point in time for my own projects. And I see their frustration and I talk to them and how was it and how did you learn and where are you at right now and what salary how much are you earning and whatnot. And again, it's a frustrating experience because it's frustrating for me because I can see that the grass isn't greener on the other side. Let me just tell you this. Out of all the programmers, coders, software engineers, whatever you want to call them, that I've worked with over the course of these years, not one of them was over the 30 out of 100 in Photoshop or in the web design world, in the design world, right? So all the great coders that I've worked with, by the way, I rarely work with beginner coders. I'm fortunate to have adequate budget, sufficient money that I can hire great companies and great coders. So that's really something that I'm really fortunate, right? So in dealing with them, none of them are great designers. I would say most of them are mediocre to sub-mediocre designers. Most of them, I would say, they're between 20 and 40 in terms of Photoshop or Adobe XD. So if you try and, if you ask them for a layout or for whatever, they're not going to do a great job. Obviously, if you ask them for the button or whatever, obviously they're going to be just fine. But in terms of creating something from scratch, they're not going to do a great job. And why is that? Because again, the number of hours is limited. So what I propose is, again, I propose that you focus on one thing, become great at it, and then if you want, you may move on. You don't, I strongly believe you won't want to switch gears. I strongly believe that if you get a 60 out of 100 in terms of your design skills, you're going to be crazy to pick up something else. Now, sure, look, I'm a designer, right? And I may pick up the violin, I may pick up the piano, whatever. But at no point am I thinking, man, I'm not getting enough jobs, I'm not getting enough money. Let me learn some Excel because Excel is in high demand right now. So if I learn how to use Excel, maybe I can get some more money out of my clients. That's not how it works. There's more than enough projects for everybody, but this is such a simple explanation as to why you're failing. This is such a simple thing, You can just immediately take this excuse and hug it with both hands and say, okay, I'm not doing a good job on 99 designs because I don't know how to code. I'm not getting enough projects because I don't know how to code. That's false. You're not getting enough projects because your work sucks. Your work isn't as good. And obviously, everybody sucks. So that's why you have to constantly get better and better at it every day. Now, look, again, one of the best things that I've actually addressed several times in this podcast is the following. Let me share my screen right here. What I strongly believe is something that, again, can bring you serious cash. Serious cash. It can bring you joy. It can bring you excitement. It can make you wake up with a passion. Having a look at my business here, my oatmeal business, I'm constantly working on its design. I'm constantly tweaking things. I'm constantly improving it on the UX side. And obviously, you can't have UX without UI. I'm constantly tweaking things, right? So the way it works, I look at statistics, and then I think, okay, maybe if I make this button in this other shape, maybe if I move this up or down, maybe if I do this and that and that. So these are all things that are going through my mind, and I'm experimenting in Photoshop and Adobe XD. And then I tell the coder, hey, do this, this, and this. I tend to give out lists, 5 points, 10 points, execute this, 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 and this, right? And then they do it. He does it, the coder does it, and then I see the rewards. Here are the rewards. Let's have a look at the conversion rate. The conversion rate, if you don't know what that is basically one of the most important things ever in terms of having a business online. That's one of the most important KPIs, key performance indicator. So if you measure one thing to see how healthy your business is, one of the most important KPIs is the conversion rate. If you have a high conversion rate, that means customers, visitors become customers. And that's what everybody wants on the web. That's the number one thing that people want on the web. Business owners, this is what they want. to convert visitors to customers, right? So by being free, by not learning how to code, I focus on learning things like this, for example, right? I look at various case studies where I see that Etsy tried to do something. They tried to implement a quantity drop down, and this seemed to have worked. This increased sales, right? And there's a million things right here, and I've featured this this website a few times in the past. It's not something that I strongly recommend you go and watch. It's not something for everybody, and I definitely don't suggest you buying the package, the premium package, but it's something that I tend to look at from time to time. And again, based on all this information that I'm getting from this website and a bunch of other ones, then I go back, I modify my website. Again, I make a list, and based on the list, the coder changes it. And then here's my conversion rate. It's 2.41 for the last 7 days. For today, and obviously this is not yet done, 291. Again, anything over 2% is fantastic. You should be really happy if you have a conversion rate over 2%. Now, obviously, there are loads of cases, loads of examples. Some people are really happy with 0.8%, for example. Some people, for whatever reason, if they sell whatever cocaine or whatever, they may have 3%, 4%. But those are pretty rare. The industry standard, everybody agrees that 2% is great. So having said that, by having 2.91, I'm really happy about that. Yesterday I had 282. Very happy with that. Okay, last 7 days 241, and last 28 days 215 because I had some issues, some downtime during the weekend when the developer made some changes. So overall, I'm pretty close to 3%. And I managed to get that 3% by working smarter, by working with my brain. The thing is, when I create a list for my coder, the list is tedious. The list isn't magical. It's not exciting at all. For example, look, one of the things that I want to do right now is make this full width, right? So instead of having this padding right here on the left and right side and at the top, I would like to increase, I would like to make it like this. I would like to make it 0 pixels and 0 pixels, right? So by having that, the image becomes larger, and obviously there's no need for that extra space at the top. Let's see where it is. Here it is, padding top, right? No need for that, right? And then I obviously can decrease this one as well. Now, again, this seems really simple, right? It's not. By changing that CSS, the whole website is now going to be broken. The whole website is going to have less space, less padding and whatnot. So the coder obviously has to make sure that he creates a different CSS class. He has to do loads of things to make that happen, right? It's not just like that. It's not just like what I did. It's not like it's obviously hours of work. It's not like that. It's not extremely difficult, but it's not that simple, right? It's tedious work. It's work where you deal with bugs on a constant basis. It's a grind. It's something extremely repetitive. I say, hey, the payment method isn't working. He says it is working. Okay, let's debug it. Let's try it. And again. What browser? What is it on a phone? Is it on whatever? What credit card is it? Let's talk to the... It's extremely tedious. It's not beautiful in the slightest. Unless you have a passion for it, it's something that it's gut-wrenching. It's something that it's like using a toothpick to add salt to your food. You do it bit by bit by bit by bit by bit. And the problem is, one of the biggest challenges as a coder from what I've seen over the course of these years, I say, hey, okay, let's move this button a bit up, right? I want to see the button a bit up, right? He does that and something else from another side breaks. It's extremely frustrating, not only for me as the client, but for him as well. And most often than not, what tends to happen when I hire these coders, they're extremely... they have trouble sleeping, let's put it like that, for the simple fact that, again, I hired them for something very simple. Remove that padding, right? He changes something, and there's an unforeseen consequence on another page. That page breaks, right? I hired them. Let's say I want to give them $100 to make that change, right? Okay, beautiful. They quote me for whatever, 3 hours, $33 per hour. Beautiful. But now the website is broken. The website doesn't work anymore because he changed something. He didn't realize the consequences. Now he has to work another 10 hours to figure it out. He has to spend 10 more hours to see what other pages have been broken and how to isolate that case and make it happen. Now those 10 hours, they're not billed. I'm not paying for them. I've never paid for them as a client because it's his fault. Right? I only said, hey, move this button or remove that padding. The simple fact that he obviously broke it, it's not my issue. And I'm not trying to be a jerk. This is how clients are. I asked for that button to be higher up and you broke the website. Go fix it. I don't care if it's Sunday or Saturday, if it's 10 p.m., it doesn't matter. So this is the beauty of being a coder, right? And again, let me just sum it up. If you start from the point where you feel like, hey, I have to learn how to code so I can get a better package, so I can offer a better package for my clients, it's not a good way to go about it. Be as best as you can on one thing. If you can't manage to convince your clients to hire you as a designer, it's again, you have poor salesmanship, your marketing sucks, your portfolio sucks, because it's really, again, for starters, let me just say this. If your client has a budget of nothing, of $100 or $200, you don't want him anyway. Because those types of clients, they have one thing, they have one option, and that's Team Forest, where they spend $49 on a WordPress theme and they do it themselves. They work at it themselves. That's not the type of client that you're interested in. The type of client that you're interested in is a serious person, a serious business owner that, has a shop or a restaurant or whatever, and you come with the following thing. Hey, would you like to have more sales? Not a beautiful website. Don't ask him if he wants a beautiful website. He doesn't want a beautiful website. He wants more money in his pocket, right? And then you come and say, hey, look, I think I can get you more business. I think I can get you more customers through the door. I think I can increase your conversion rate. Here's what I've done in the past. Here's my portfolio. Here's what I've done. Not only are these beautiful, but they convert more. They work better. And the way I've done it in the past, I design everything, and then I recommend this company that you can use to code it. These are two separate things because I focus on one thing alone. I do it great. I do a great job at it. And then on the other side, it's their thing. Coders are totally separate. So again, I can talk for loads of hours regarding how to sell yourself, how to sell your skills. But that's not the question here. If you absolutely feel like, again, coding is something that you need, it's not a good reason to do it. It's not a good reason. Let's see some of the questions and let's see some of the answers. Let's see. I'm 19. I like coding as well. Okay. So why should I learn designing or coding? I love doing any one of them, but can't decide. Well, it's very basic. It's very simple, actually. You start and see how things are going. It is what it is. Both of them are gonna suck at the start. Both of them are gonna be really difficult at the beginning. But you have to ask yourself: is this something that brings me joy? Is this something that can be really lucrative? Can it bring me lots of money? Can I make a career out of it? Do I see myself doing this for 10 years, for 20 years? That's something, where you just have to ask yourself and see what it is. It's something that's very subjective. But again, don't learn to code because there aren't enough design jobs. That's not a good motive. That's not a good reason for it. Again, you may learn how to code and still not get jobs. Imagine that. That's the thing I really want to leave you with. So you go to the gym, you make big biceps, you have a huge back, whatever. You become muscular, you become dominant, you become whatever, an alpha male, and you're still not getting women. What happens then? How do you feel then? That's something that's really fascinating to me. I've been listening a lot of Jordan Peterson recently, and that's how I decided to approach this podcast today. Because again, I really feel like the objective isn't really well thought of. Because again, you start with something that seems basic, common sense. Okay, I want to get in better shape so I can get a better girlfriend. But then something breaks down, because you're not thinking it through. That's only one part of it. Being handsome, sure, is one part of it, but that's not everything. That's not what women want. That's not the only thing that women want. Clients don't want a coder that wants to do it themselves. And now let me tell you another thing, because I am very confident in this. So I've had an Android design company for 5 years, right? I've made nearly $1 million in profit from that company. I've hired people with huge salaries, absolutely huge salaries, and coders, Android coders that were brilliant, fantastic people, incredibly intelligent and smart, and whatever you want to call them, fantastic people. Having said that, I would never ever try and learn how to code an app. I would never ever try and do that because, again, learning the success of an app is not actually based on its code. It's the same thing with a website. If you think that you're gonna be much more successful just because you learn how to code it, you're gonna be really, really incredibly disappointed. And again, let me tell you one more thing. I promise I'm gonna stop real soon. So, in the past, when I freelanced just as a designer, the following situation has happened loads of times. I create a website for whatever, $500, $1,500, whatever, no matter the price amount. I was happy with that amount. I finished the design, the entire project. Most of the projects I finished in under 1 week. Some crazy projects I finished in 3 weeks. But I never spent more than 3-4 weeks at the most in my entire career as a designer. Think about that. 3 to 4 weeks, the absolute most, right? I think the highest prize amount I got was something like $4,000, and it was a one-on-one transaction. Whatever, it really doesn't matter. After that, I hand everything off. I know how to do the handover process. So I give the coder exactly what he wants. I give the client and the coder everything that he wants, right? The fonts, the icons, the links, whatever, what he has to purchase, everything. And then I step back. My job as a designer is done. The money is in my pocket. The coding company, again, this has happened several times. After 3 months, they're still working on it. After 6 months, they're still working on it. The coder is fed up. The project manager is fed up. The company hasn't been paid. They only have an advance, 30%, 40%, 50%. They're dying to get over it, to finish the project and move on to the next person, to the next project. They can't because they haven't delivered it. This is not an isolated incident. I strongly believe that. So again, it's a clean break. For me, I finished the design in a week, in a few days, in 3-4 weeks at the most. Here it is, that's it, pay me and I'm out. You don't care what happens, after that. And the thing is, especially on 99 Designs and especially with various business angels and various entrepreneurs that are cutting edge, they create something revolutionary. When you create something revolutionary, because again, that's what tends to happen on 99 Designs. Not a whole lot of people want a website for a restaurant or whatever. When you create something like that, it's really difficult to code. It takes a lot of time to code. Probably the engineers on that specific project, they don't have an experience building that specific thing. So that's really complicated. It really gets really complicated. Because again, you think that you're gonna learn a bit of WordPress, a little CSS and HTML, maybe some PHP, and then you're gonna be off to the races. But that's not the case. You think you're gonna learn Webflow, and you think, hey, I'm charging $1,000 as a designer. If I'm gonna code it in Webflow, I can ask for $2,000. No, that's not the case. That's not the case. For example, my website, you couldn't create it. It seems like such a basic little thing, like such a small e-commerce shop. But trust me, you won't be able to do it in just like that. It's really difficult. And again, I can't really tell you in a few words how difficult it is, but I can tell you how many hours they've worked on it and how many hours we're still working on it. It's an ongoing thing that I'm constantly paying for. So basically the coder is suffocated by all my requests. Hey, this doesn't work well, this doesn't work well, this doesn't work well. And again, the fact that I said that I'm paying them good money is important because it's not like I'm working with amateurs. It's not like I'm working with beginners. So if these skilled people with loads of experience in the field are having these issues, if they can't manage a clean break, why would you assume that you're going to be able to do that? Why are you going to assume, why are you assuming that, again, you're going to learn Webflow or whatever, and then you're going to be able to, outshine everyone else? Because it's exactly like I said regarding my experience as a freelancer. I managed to win 13% of the contests that I participated in. I participated in 400 contests or something like that, 450, whatever, 350, whatever, right? 13%. I'm a great designer, right? I was great then. I was working nonstop. I was doing 3-4 contests per day, right? Now, I'm winning at 13% win rate. Why would you assume you're gonna have 30% or 50%? Why would you do that? Why would you have the arrogance to think that you're gonna learn to code in just a few weeks, maybe a few months, and then again you're gonna double your earnings? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, right? I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm not saying that aren't 80% designers that are 80% coders. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that being a workaholic is not a great idea. Becoming so frustrated just because you're mediocre at 2 branches is not a good thing. I think you should work on one thing at your portfolio, becoming great at one thing, and getting as much money as you can out of it. Don't switch gears. Don't start something and then, okay, you know what? Let me just drop this and learn InDesign as well. Let me learn Illustrator as well, because loads of people want Illustrator, right? But let me also learn whatever, After Effects, because I've seen most clients, after they have a website, they also want a 30-second promo, right? So if I do that, I'm gonna get even more money, right? So let me learn Photoshop and Illustrator, because people want logos too. And let me learn After Effects. And obviously, if you learn After Effects, why not the Premiere Pro, right? Because you have to cut things together and put... It's something that comes out of fear. It's something that comes from a place where you feel you're not good enough. And it's fine to not be good enough, but don't disperse your attention. Don't focus on 3-4 things at once. Do focus on one thing, specialize, and I promise you, you're gonna get more than enough money out of it. So that's why I think you shouldn't learn how to code. You should only learn to code if it's something that you're passionate about, if it makes you jump out of your bed, if you really feel that it makes your skin tingle, if you really feel that it's something that you're passionate about. But don't learn to code if you feel like you can't manage to get projects because you're just a designer. That's not the case. Thank you so much. I'm going to be in the chat, in the general chat, for a few more minutes to answer any potential questions. I know I haven't started the new design contest for this week, and it's already Wednesday. I'll do my best to come up with something, and I'll post the contest really soon. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is Chris signing out. Thank you.